During the 1940s, in the quiet town of Sweden called Lund, Vipeholm Hospital was home to hundreds of residents with intellectual disabilities. It was a place meant for care, but it became the stage for one of the most controversial experiments in dental history. Described by Gustafsson et al. In 1954 and summarized by Davis in 1955, this dietary study was a 5-year investigation done on 436 mentally challenged inmates of Vipeholm Hospital. In this experiment, the inmates were given diets carefully crafted for studies. Some received sugar in their meals, others received sticky candies between meals, and some were given treats in ways designed to test the limits of their teeth. So what was the purpose of a study on diet and tooth decay? Well, back in Sweden, the government realized that repairing teeth was getting expensive. So instead of just fixing the problem, they wanted to prevent it. So they commissioned a study to understand how diet, especially sugar, affects our teeth. And if the association is proven, then does an increase in carbohydrate, mostly sugar intake, cause an increase in dental caries? And likewise, does an decrease in carbohydrate, mostly sugar intake, cause an decrease in dental caries? So for this experiment, the group of inmates were divided into 7 groups, out of which 1 was the control group and the other 6 were experimental groups. These different 6 experimental groups were given different forms and types of sugar for a period of time, and then the effects of intake of those sugar were studied by the researchers. So first, let's talk about the control group. The control group was made up of 60 males with an average age of 34.9 years. These participants followed a low carbohydrate, high fat diet with no sugar for 2 years. So this control group was created in order for us to have a baseline. No sugar in their diet means we can see what happens to their dental health when sugar isn't a factor. This helps compare with the other groups to understand if sugar is the real cause of cavities. After 2 years, this diet was replaced by an ordinary diet to which 110 grams of sugar a day at meal times were added, which was accompanied by a small but significant rise in calories. The second group was sucrose group. This group consists of 57 males, and they were given 300 grams of sucrose in solution during meal times every day for 2 years. That's a lot of sugar. So after 2 years, the sugar amount was reduced to 75 grams per day. Then the researchers observed that the sucrose group showed a small but significant increase in dental caries compared to the control group. So they realized that sugar did have an impact. So now let's look at the third group, which was the bread group. It was composed of 42 female inmates and 41 male inmates. They were given sweet bread containing 50 grams of sugar once daily with the afternoon coffee. So during first 2 years, the bread group did not show significant increase in tooth decay despite eating bread with sugar. But here's where it gets interesting. After the first 2 years, the bread group was given 4 portions of sweet bread with every meal. That's right, 4 portions of sweet bread every day at each meal. This resulted in significant increase in caries, more in female than in male. So it seemed like when sugar is consumed more frequently, especially with every meal, it leads to a much higher risk of cavities. So now let's talk about the group which received chocolate in their diet. Chocolate group. 47 of the male inmates received 300 grams of sucrose daily for the first 2 years at mealtime. In the second year, the sucrose was reduced to 110 grams and they supplemented 65 grams of milk chocolate daily. Result, caries increment was low in the initial period but increased significantly in the second period. So these findings from the chocolate group led the researchers to believe that chocolate group showed increased caries due to higher sugar intake from chocolate. Another group in this experimental study was caramel group, and as the name indicates, the participants of caramel group received caramel daily. This group of 62 males received 22 caramels daily in 2 portions between meals during the third year, which was then changed to 22 caramels in 4 portions between meals. However, in the 5th year, the caramels were withdrawn and replaced by an isocaloric quantity of fats with meal. The result, with consumption of caramel, there was significant increase in caries increment, whereas with withdrawal of caramels, it resulted in fall in caries increment. These findings in the caramel group led the researchers to believe that since caramel are sticky, prolonging sugar exposure on the teeth, they increase the risk of caries. Hence, sticky food increases the caries risk. Now, let's talk about the 8 toffee group, which consisted of 40 males who started with a low-carb, high-fat diet for the first year. After that, as the name indicates, they were given 8 toffees, one with breakfast and the other with lunch each day, which was then later changed to in-between meals. This particular study aimed to examine the impact of consuming sugar have in between meals. Lastly, the last group in the study was a 24 toffee group. So picture this. There were 48 inmates all eating 24 toffees a day, which were split between their meals. So this happened in the 3rd and 4th year, which was followed by withdrawal of the toffees in the 5th year. This group showed that the greatest increase in the caries occurred during the 3rd and 4th year, followed by sharp drop in caries in the 5th year. After vigorous 5-year study, the main conclusion that were obtained from this experiment was that increased carbohydrate, mainly sugar, definitely increased the caries activities. Sugars that is consumed on a form that will be retained on the surface of the tooth, that is sticky form, that also is associated with increase in caries activity. Intake of sugar between meals and increase in sugar clearance time was also associated with increased caries activities. Upon withdrawal of sugar-rich foods, the increased caries activities rapidly disappears. And despite avoidance of refined sugar and maximum restrictions of natural sugars, caries lesion may continue to appear. Alright, now let's dive into the major issues with the Vipeholm study. And trust me, there are some big ones. First up, the groups were not set in the best way. There was no proper matching of age or initial health status between the patient in different groups. So that's like comparing apples and oranges, which is not a fair test. And now here's where it gets even trickier. Since they were mentally challenged, they did not even give consent to be part of the study. Plus, they did not follow the instruction properly because they truthfully were unable to do so. And let's not forget about the dietary inconsistencies. The diet plans were not really controlled well. Some people had sugar for longer periods than others, and some had meals at different times. This all adds chaos to the data. You cannot measure the results if everything over the place, right? And let's talk about the most darkest of them all. So it was said that the experiment was tried before on regular patients. But since regular patients leave sooner or later, it was not very contributing. That's why they went for the mentally disabled. So now we have to remember that patients were force-fed the candy in order to cause cavities and only stopped when every teeth of theirs had rotten to the bone. And they obtained sufficient data. It was said that some of the dentists tried to treat the patient, but treatment at that point in time was practically non-existent. It was simply pulling the rotten teeth out. So the patient was left with 2 choices, either to suffer lifelong with the dental pain or they had to have their all teeth removed, which is not ethical at all. Despite its valuable contributions to understanding the link between sugar and dental decay, the study's ethical violations cannot be ignored. This dark chapter in scientific history serves as a haunting reminder of the capacity for exploitation under the guise of progress. No matter how groundbreaking the finding was, they remain forever tainted by the suffering endured by those who were sacrificed for them. So with that, it's the end of the video. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe and hit the bell icon for more. See you in the next one.